And we're back. Welcome to Print Your Games, the podcast about what is new and awesome in 3D printing for gamers. I'm your host, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram, and I'm joined by...
Kristen Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery.
Oh gosh, Kristen, I feel the bads for you. Uh, yeah, but I have to I have to applaud you, man, because for those of you who don't know, Kristen, what's wrong?
Are we talking about the Gombu thing? Or
Talking
talking which
about you
thing?
catching plague.
Yes. I have the big bad. Yep.
Yes, and I had the big bad a few weeks ago, and we had to cancel the show over it. So the fact that you are sitting upright already impresses the crap out of me. I was not
I
able to do this.
yeah. I think I had a very zealous response, and both came on fast, and I think I'm also improving quickly. So um,
Awesome.
I'm going to attribute an alarming amount of experimental vaccines back in the beginning of all this.
Oh yeah,
So
because
I was
yeah.
actually yes, I was actually in the trial, so I've got more vaccines than the average bear.
Have you developed superpowers?
Regrettably, no new ones. I still have my mutant ability to complicate any situation though, but I'd had that before COVID.
So for today's episode, it is mostly going to be a newsy episode because there's been a couple of products stealthily released recently
Stealth
that are
releases.
worth thinking. Yeah, we have a Ninja 3D printer that has appeared in a flash
I have to
on...
admit, when I read the show notes about that, I was
Mhm.
thinking you meant like Ninja, like they just released their combined grill and backyard air fryer. So I figured maybe there's like, and now there's one that also does 3D printing in addition to air frying your food,
I
which
just
didn't
don't want my
mean
3D printer anywhere near my chicken nuggets. No.
yeah. I just when I saw Ninja, I
Uh,
was like, well, they're making everything else, so why not?
no. So what we'll go ahead and just jump into the news a little bit, and then move on to where this takes us because this is going to be a little bit interesting. So this news actually just hit me the other day with one of our listeners, David, was like gave me just a direct link to the product page without any explanation, and then went sneaky.
Hmm.
So Elegoo has stealth launched a new Saturn.
What?
Yes, a new Saturn, a new challenger has entered the field.
But we just got a new Saturn not that
I
long
know,
ago.
right? And the new Saturn is the Elegoo Saturn 8K, which you might be
Oh.
going, wait, isn't the Saturn 2 8K? Is this just the Saturn 2? It is not the Saturn 2. This is indeed a separate SKU that they're selling on their website. You can't even find this on the Elegoo's official website, only their official Amazon page. And there are product pics. It's part of their official Amazon page. Makes me wonder if this was not meant to be launched right away or
Huh.
what was going on with it. But what we do have is the Elegoo Saturn 8K MSLA resin 3D printer with a 10-inch 8K monochrome screen. It is retailing at $499 USD right now, and if you look at it, what it looks like and what I really think
Hmm.
this is a Saturn S with an 8K screen upgrade. Because if
Gotcha.
you look at the rest of it, like the print dimensions are 219 by 123 by 210, which is the exact same as the Saturn S. Um, it has the it does indeed have the little plug to put in the filters, so it does have built-in filtering that you can do with it.
Mm.
It has a monochrome screen. It has nice big build size. It is in every way a Saturn S with more resolution, which means I really don't see why you wouldn't just go for this model as opposed to a Saturn II right now. Because
Hmm.
for like you get slightly more build volume on the Saturn II, which has 250 height instead of 210 height, but everything else is the same. So as long as
Yeah.
you don't need to be printing very new tall things, And I very rarely think what I can print on my Saturn is, you know what? I wish I could print an inch taller.
Yeah, that's not usually been mine either.
No,
David
no.
just came into the chat, and David, we did indicate that this was your lead, by
Yes,
the way.
thank you again
You might have
for
missed
this
that.
scoop, David. And so, hey, it's $100 cheaper than the Saturn II, uh, and in every way, it's everything I would want from a Saturn II. So,
Other than that inch of height,
yay! Yeah,
huh?
you're an inch shorter on this one. So if that is bothering you, then hey, go for the
Go
Saturn
pay
II.
the
And
extra.
I'm sure that the Saturn II has some features that I'm just not thinking of that the Saturn 8K doesn't have, but not that I care about. Like
Voxel
you're at
Forge says they do not like the leveling system. Are they talking?
Oh yeah, so the Saturn uses the bot leveling system instead of the four bolts leveling system, and I can get why people don't like that. It's a little bit lesser precise. I leveled my Saturn months and months and months and months and months ago, and have never had to re-level it, so it doesn't bother me much. But I can totally see why people would prefer the photon method of leveling.
So I will say that generally speaking, I am very aggressive when I take my plate off. I don't have that magnetic plate setup that you do,
Mm-hmm.
and I always skew my build plate. I have to re-level it every time.
This is where I have to be honest. I don't know the last time I took my mag plate off of my build plate. I
Really?
literally
So
still
and
just
you're still not like not
I
messing
have
your
like I've protected the gentle cradle, or I've perfected the gentle cradle that you hold the access knob with, so that all of the pressure and weight I'm putting on with my scraper is only going into the build plate, and it is not in any way influencing the angle of the leveling knob.
I have to admit I see you doing that, and there's like bamboo trees in the background and like Wuxia music playing, because like the grace you must have to do that without skewing your build plate, because I swear like I am channeling my unknown dwarven ancestors and taking it like a pick to that thing, trying to get it off sometimes, especially if I have just done pre-supports and they have generously created the build that you're doing that's really thick. It's a beast to get off sometimes for me. And then of course, as soon as I like jerk it once, the ball joint just goes off.
Oof! Ouch!
So yeah, I kind of agree with Voxel Forge on that. Like, fortunately, it's also very easy for me to level though. So yes, totally, Lord and Master of the Print Perram. It's like it's your prestige class.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of tempted. Like I wasn't wanting to do the full $600 replacing uh, my Saturn with this new Saturn, because then it would also have to replace my wash and cure machine
Mm-hmm.
to go with the new plate too. And so, but hey, just $500. That's not too bad.
And the plate
And
would be the same, right? You could just use your current
no,
stuff. Oh,
no,
still legit. Too
it's
big.
still a little
Too
too
big.
big. So I still would have to replace my wash and cure machine.
Yes,
Um,
Alex. He's very, very. I visualize him as Wushu Master, Wind and Water, probably. Except for it's actually alcohol and I don't know, wiping
dis-
swipes.
distilled alcohol and wet wipes. Nope.
Yep. But they flow in a big, like, wind-like pattern of web wings. I like it.
Mhm, yeah.
Anyway,
My Saturn is currently going strong, and honestly, I don't have much call for like the quality I'm getting. The 50 microns I'm getting off of my Saturn, as opposed to the 28.5 microns I'd be getting off of the Saturn 8K. I'm Yeah. When my screen goes out, I will probably buy a Saturn 2 or this new 8K
or
Saturn or
whatever's new at that
whatever's,
point.
yeah,
Right.
rather than replace the screen, because I don't want to be bothered replacing parts and messing with wires when I
It's
could just
true.
buy a new printer. Speaking of,
Speaking of, uh-oh.
so Elegoo finally got back to me with my printer
Oh, your
problem.
Neptune situation.
Yeah. They said they were going to send me a print head assembly, and I got a hot end and a nozzle and wires. And I'm sure this is what they meant. I'm not accusing them of misleading me, but this is leading me back down the path of taking this thing apart and then manually tweaking the wires and replacing the electronics in this device that I bought new to avoid
Brand
doing
new.
that sort of nonsense.
No.
So I'm very unhappy. I am actually very unhappy with this situation.
Hmm.
I'll be writing them back, letting them know of
Take
that. It's
note,
like,
folks. We don't often say not nice things about Elegoo, but it does happen.
no, I get it. No, I don't. It's like, seriously, there's a lot of people having problems with the Neptune 3. It seems to be a particular batch of Neptune 3s that I was unlucky to be in the
I'm
lottery
nervous because I
for.
ordered mine very similar to yours, and
Yeah.
I have not had an
I
opportunity to set
will
it up.
say there seems to be new firmware, and this appears to be all related to a leveling issue with the auto
Okay.
leveling software. I am going to say that if you've got a Neptune 3, make sure you update it to the most current firmware because it does seem to be solving people's problems.
So do that
So
before I do anything with it, so that
yeah,
I don't blow mine up.
yeah. So right now I'm like kind of 50-50 on am I going to do this repair or am I going to just check this thing in the closet and grab my Neptune 2 and just keep using my Neptune 2 that works like a beast and has never given me problems.
I hope you would at least let Elegoo know that you're not willing to fix it, because that sucks that you're just gonna
Hmm.
have to do that.
I know. It's like I kind of would have I the straw too far wasn't even the parts they sent. It was when I looked at one end of the wires and there's no connector. It's just a lead of wires that just
Like you
goes to
just have to
nothing.
cut and like figure out
It's
where it
like, am I going
goes.
to have to splice this? Am I going to have to if I have to use a soldering gun to fix this thing, I'm out. Like,
Right.
seriously. It's not that I don't. Like, I know how to solder stuff. I have taken computer science classes.
But this is a brand new product
Yeah, I've
to
built a
expect.
computer from scratch from a soldering board and EPROMs. I know how to do this. I just don't want to, and I didn't want to buy a product to make it myself.
And is this again that same divide we've been talking about, where like if it's FDM, they just expect you to be able to like MacGyver it, but like
Yeah, it is. This is the car culture situation. I'm expected to like just totally like rebuild the hot end, and I get it. You know, that's part of that culture. It's just like one of the big selling points of the Neptune 3 was this was not that.
ever
The
supposed to happen.
install, yeah, it comes
And
in two pieces or three: power supply, top part, bottom part. Connect the three together and go.
yeah,
It's so easy to put together. This was sort of the deal with it. Like, this is the printer, the low end printer that you don't have to deal with that nonsense on. And I'm just like, I would have rather spent more money and not have to deal with this.
right.
Ugh. And I guess it might be a me problem that, like, hey, this is a hobby. It's not a product. And it's just like, actually, no, it's a product. And I wanted to not have to fix it
Not to
myself.
mention, it's a product you have already superseded this for me. Like it's part of the expectation of staying loyal to a brand, right? Like
Hmm.
you've had positive experiences in the past, and I don't know.
Hmm.
But like I said, FDM, it feels like there's a different expectation sometimes. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and the help forums have been really good with helping me diagnose the issues and all that jazz. And yeah, I know I'm supposed to be a 3D printing guy who knows my 3D printing stuff, but it's just like,
Sometimes you just want it to work.
Alex says, in other news, my CR6 SE of Perseus uh, is working again. At this point, I've replaced practically everything except the frame and power supply. So
Exactly, right?
is it even the same 3D printer I originally
It's the Ship
bought?
of Theseus printer.
Oh no. Oh, and David Wickham says it's not the level of toy you expected. Even pressure doesn't expect you to solder. Oh, and to be fair, I do not yet know if I have to solder, but I do know that there's no connector on that wire.
Right. So you're gonna have to like probably at least splice.
Yeah, I don't know what's involved, but something's involved.
Over involved.
Yeah. But this is not the only new. But speaking of rubbing salt in the wound,
Mm,
this is the
okay.
week that Anycubic has decided to step back up and say, hey, we've got another new printer that has all these cool same features that the Neptune 3 has. It's the Cobra Go, which,
Right.
to be fair, is a smaller build volume.
Sure.
Where this is it's a 8.5 by 8.5 build volume on the Cobra Go. But and also it is, you have to build it yourself. This is not, this comes in three pieces. This is back to it's a kit. situation. This is the Ender
Okay.
3 level of assembly. But it's been tested. It's gone out to the reviewers. It's gone out to, heck, Linus Tech Tips even reviewed the dang thing. So I've got a little bit more confidence in this one. And also, the forums of the people printing with it are not flooded with people showing pictures of their hot end encased in plastic like
Yeah, I
mine
think
was.
my nephew got one and says he likes it. So
Yeah. So the Anycubic Cobra Go is their new entry level. It's got auto leveling and a heated bed and a built-in MagFlex plate and all the cool things that we just talked about in the other print. This is becoming the new standard for FDM 3D printers, and I'm all for it. I am looking at it and I'm going, if I have to buy a new FDM printer anyway, and I'm going, no, I probably won't get the Go. It's probably a great option, but for just a little bit more, you can upgrade to, especially right now, because Anycubic's doing their big 7th anniversary sale. So they've knocked the price down a bit. The actual Cobra, so the Cobra Go is $189, so sub
Mhm.
$200, build it yourself kind of kit,
Right.
and you results in a printer with auto beta leveling and all the fun toys that that we all love and want. And then the Anycubic Cobra itself, the original Cobra, is down to $260 right now. So $80 more. But for that, you get a bigger bed and less put it together yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I will agree with what C. Catlett just threw into the chat, though.
Yeah.
Anycubic support, not the best sometimes.
Yeah, indeed. And oh, yeah. Elegoo Support has done me very well very often. So I will have another email exchange with them and see what's up with this, because like I don't want to do electronics work.
When I infamously baked my LED
Mhm.
on my last one and then scraped it to pieces, my Anycubic, was it Photon X?
Mhm.
Um, the first one I destroyed, that one.
Oh yeah. The
Yeah,
origin of
yeah.
the screen protector meme.
They said, we're going to send you a replacement LED. It might match the one you have.
Oh no, Mike.
So you have to check yourself. And then they actually said, if it's not the right leads, because there's two different types, they went through a generational change in the middle of their fabrication.
Right.
And some of the replacement LEDs do not match the power connector setup you will have inside your machine. And they actually said, you can resell this and then buy the other part from this third party.
Oh
So
no.
I have a feeling I got the later generation screen.
Yeah.
But they were concerned that I might have had the early fabrication. So yeah, it got to the point where I was like, I don't even want to fix this anymore.
Oh
So,
no.
hence why I
And
have an
this
Elegoo.
it sucks when you end up in that situation. And yeah, Elegoo's support's always done me well, so I'm hopeful that they'll help me out here too. Yeah, at least they're emailing me and sending me parts, the correct parts.
I just love it might be the right one. You can
Oh, and
resell it if
also,
it's not.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, would you be interested in a build your own Anycubic Cobra Go, or does that experience
Well,
spoil you on
I
Anycubic?
still have my Neptune, and if I can just wait for that firmware, maybe it'll be fine.
So the firmware's
But I
out, by
also,
the way.
yeah,
So
I just
it's
need to
out there now.
build it and get it.
Yeah.
But I also already have my Mega X, which as long as
Mm.
I now have figured out the 15 steps to actually making it print, it works fine once it's set up and perfectly heated and perfectly set up and not too far out on the build plate, even though the reason I got it is it has a massive build plate that I can't use the volume of. Yeah, then it works
Wonderful.
fine.
Oh gosh, I love y'all FDM people, but at this point I'm thinking, can I just like screw two Jupiters together and see if I can get a big enough build volume
Right.
to just resin print this stuff?
Yeah, I have to admit, more and more for my FDM printing, it's going to single piece,
Hmm.
not playable interior, just have like a drop building, that's what I'm going to make my FDM
Mhm.
stuff. Just have the big, massive terrain piece, or single building, or maybe multi-layer stacker. I don't mind those too much, but even with because the reason, what was the term he kept throwing around? It was like where your geometry, the fidelity of your geometry was right. He kept saying it last week. Um,
Dimensionally accurate.
Dimensional accuracy. Thank you. It sounds like a
Mhm.
feat in Pathfinder. But yeah, the dimensional accuracy for FDM was the selling point for me, because we were both talking about doing big sets of Kraken tiles or other things like
Mhm.
that. And now if my build plate's not right, if I spread it out too much, I get warping, and I might as well risk resin if that's the case. So
Right.
like, anyway, big
And
solid
on,
buildings.
yeah, and also like the crafty side of me is calling, and you know, I could buy, a hot wire cutter and
Dollar store
some.
foam core.
I already have all the dollar store foam core I could ever need,
You can
and
always have
texture
more power.
rollers, 3D printing texture rollers, and like, maybe I don't need the big old FDM printer after all. Um, I
I don't know.
sure
There
do
are
like
things.
some of the things I get out of it,
I
but
did sign up for 3D Hexes again this month, because they have some really cool buildings that I think will work in FDM that I'm very excited by. 6 more yards. 6 more yards.
so what have you been working on lately?
Well, I am working my way through an OPR Chaos army, and I
Ooh.
just saw the preview pictures of their new Snaky Lust Demons, which also dovetail to my existing Snaky army, so I can probably multi-purpose those, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
But I of course got distracted because Cast and Play just dropped a Cosmic Horror set. I got Into the
Mm-hmm. It,
Void,
it's
and
a,
they are awful, like such horrible, twisted, tentacly, screaming eyeball monsters of doom, and I love them so much. And I think the main ones that are in the set that I'm putting on are supposed to be large, but there's so much horrible tentacle explosion that they're just everywhere. So I can only fit 4 of them on the build plate, even though I think they're supposed to be 50 millimeter bases, because they're just so much tentacle explosion goo. I bet. Did you find what you did? Find it? Oh, I love this set so much, so much. Um, do you have the queue up to the next page, to like the first group shot? Because I think it's the first group. If you're listening to us, these are big explosion of, that's the throwbacks, but they're basically like a central, like, there's a template for Beholderkin in Pathfinder, but you could do something similar with 5e, where they have like a multi eyeball look, but these things just have like a very like tentacly, Lovecraftian vibe. Yes, it's way too much hentai. Alex calls it 4 at once. That's too much hentai for your build plate. It is too much hentai for the build plate, but I love this set. So that is what I'm currently distracted by, and in fact is coming to life on my build plate as we speak. And I can probably use them in my Chaos Army too.
it is like a giant undulations of tentacles and eyes, and like a dungeon wall set that looks really cool, but like it's a version of it that's clean, and then a version of it that's just like overgrown with eldritch,
Yeah,
goopy eyeball tentacle
if you
slime.
wanted to do a phased fight where you had like the town and then the town slowly getting corrupted, this is
Mm-hmm.
your terrain set. And again, you still get it all in that teeny tiny price tag. It's like $10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And they're doing the half height walls
I
again. I
know.
really love that they've committed to doing that
Yeah.
for their sets. It's so good. And also hollowing those out, it's actually affordable, because resin, printing those walls out in resin solid was like getting to close to $3 for the large walls each.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the 4-inch long walls, and I'm like,
I was starting
that's
to
a little
starting to
bit
feel my
much for
dwarven
me.
forage limit be pressed there.
Yeah. But I'm hollowing them out. I got them down to the large walls to under $1 and the half height walls to under 50 cents each. So that was, and I'm talking the 4-inch ones, not the 2-inch ones.
Right, right.
Yeah, so that's great. And these sets, because I'm a Kings of War fan, the Night Stalkers, these would be perfect proxies for Night Stalkers because they're all weird eldritch nightmare horror things that are just like just paint them black and then do a purple dry brush and then cover them all in gloss spray and you're done.
I was thinking, do just a white zenithal and some, then do my little contrast wash and then your pale bone, right? Like you're undead. Your
Pale sand.
Pale sand.
Chandelier Inner Dana Howl.
Yes, yes.
But and David said so 3 is the hentai limit. 0
but only
is the
on a
hentai
Saturn
limit for YouTube.
If you had a Jupiter, you could probably get a little more hentai on there.
Yeah. The Somber Prince is the one that is got my attention. It looks like something from a Tyrannid. Like it's a big giant winged insectoid monster nonsense. Dripping with slime and eyeballs.
I love it. I am always a little concerned when your wingspan is that small, when your body is that big. Like, that thing's mad because it can't actually fly.
It flies perfectly because it's using non-Euclidean physics.
Sure. It's warping reality around itself with its foulness.
It doesn't even look like that. You just think it does.
That's right. That's the representation your brain can comprehend.
So I have been having a fun time painting something I've painted again. We got into a paint chat and hangout together just the other day, and while I liked my Necromancer that I printed up to replace the dropped Vampire Necromancer. So the Titan Forge Vampiric Necromancer, which is like this Nosferatu looking vampire with a cool bat staff and like the most extra dress ever, wearing like full plate on top, dress on the bottom. It kind of works for him.
Very, high fashion.
Mm-hmm. And I loved him to pieces. And
then you loved him to pieces.
And then I dropped him immediately after taking all the photos. I was like, oh, I've got it print. I set up my lighting. I grabbed my DSLR and I take all the photos of all the cool paint job. And then immediately I was like taking him off the base to actually get his magnet in him and use him in games.
Mm-hmm.
And dropped him on the floor. And it was my old resin. It was like Elegoo gray standard, not even ABS like, no tenacious mixed in, and it has sat there for 2 years, which resin does become more brittle over time if you don't give it additives or if it's not ABS like. So it was just primed to just explode on me, and I've begun to replace all my minis that have not been painted that are made of that material because it is just the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And not suitable for a clumsy freaking gamer like me. So all that work gone, and I put like hours into that paint job. It was like, this is one of my heroes in my army and want to do it right. And so like this model that I replaced him with isn't even to that level, but I reprinted him, and then we hung out together in chat and repainted him, and I had a lovely time. And I'm definitely glad to have him back leading the armies. He has risen from the grave, and I am super happy with that.
He's a very handsome fellow.
Right. That's the first time I've gotten to paint in weeks between just like working on OPR projects and doing like COVID. Just having my own bout with COVID at the beginning of the month, just wrecking me. So like this was like it felt great to get the paintbrush out again and start to actually get some projects knocked out.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And I got the magnet out, Kristen.
You did. Hey.
Yeah, I got the Dremel. The Dremel gets magnet out good.
I'm just glad because I was worried you were going to shatter your base.
Oh no. Yeah, so when I was putting the magnet in, I don't know what happened. I've done this exact same base file that has a pre-cut in Blender. I made the hole for my exact size magnets, and they work all the time, but this one magnet would not go in all the way. So it was like just this like half of a millimeter sticking out the bottom of the base, so that when you set him down, he suddenly became a weeble instead of a vampire. It just would not sit still on the battlefield, and I had super glued in there, so it was not coming out. And I was just like trying knives. I'm like, okay, I'll pull the mini off the base entirely, but that wasn't going well. I was going to ruin the paint job if I kept it up. So I just grabbed, when you were gone to get your inhaler, I put on my respirator, grabbed my Dremel, and just dumped
Just
that
bolts
magnet
it
right
down.
on out of there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm glad that my paint station includes power tools.
Mine does too, but I probably I need to get a better safety setup, I think, for that.
Oh, you don't have the respirator and the ventilation system?
Mostly at this point, I'm just going with the same masks for COVID and everything else.
Oh, you do not want to be sanding resin with a
I
COVID mask.
That's why I haven't done it there.
Mm-hmm.
That's been an outside project, and even still rare at all.
Yeah. And speaking of spooky things,
Spooky things.
coming on up next month, we'll definitely be featuring this more in the coming episodes. But it's spooky season, and
It is spooky
next
season.
month everything's going to be Halloween. Is like, so without talking about sets we know are coming out, because we'll talk about them, when they come out next week. What do you wish? Because I kind of brace for imp. There's 2 months in a year, especially early on in collecting STL files, that I just felt was a wash.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, I don't need more undead, and everybody's going to either be doing, and everybody's going to be doing undead for Halloween. On October, everything is undead unless it's sci-fi, then it's orcs.
I have to say, like, I love me Ghosty Boys, and I think though that
Mm-hmm.
the Night Haunt Ghosty Boy Banshee vibe has happened this year, and it's happened a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel
Fleshcraft
like
Studios did a great set. Gamic has done an incredible set.
yeah. So your first one you said was it Fleshcraft? You say?
Yeah, Fleshcraft Studios.
Yeah, Fleshcraft did. Monolith has done two
Mm-hmm.
really ghosty, cool Kickstarters, and I want to say White Werewolf did. I want to say maybe even Gallet had a ghost set. But yeah, there's been a lot, and at least partially a horror set from. So I don't think that's what I want to say. I worry we're going to see a lot of steampunk Frankenstein, because it is kind of cool, right? But like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of times that theme goes so far and then stops. Like, I think if you think back to like Malifaux, there's a lot of that gaslight horror that is there's just so much that can happen in that space.
Right.
But
And a
I'm
whole lot
not
of it is it's the universal monster setting. It's everything.
right, and I kind of hope we see some of that, but I'm nervous that it's gonna just kind of be like a shallow pass where you get this kind of like half Carney, half Frankenstein steampunk thing. And I'm not going to name names because more than one company has done it, where like you just get a little like splash of each of these things, and it ends up being just kind of a little disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say in the past, Battle Yak had a pretty committed kind of mad scientist steampunk Halloween set that I wouldn't mind seeing somebody else take on in a similar fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the sneaky successor, and it you said to just guess or to predict or
Mm-hmm.
say things I want.
Sure, sure.
Something I have seen enough of to believe it's coming is I think there's going to be some cool mummy sets. And I
Mummies.
and I
There's
don't
not a lot.
necessarily. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, there's a few people that have done like the Tomb Kings kind of stuff.
Right. But I'm thinking we're going to see some mummies that are a little less specifically Egyptian. Does that make sense?
Huh?
Well,
Okay.
like I sent you that preview image for the sarcophagus
Oh,
mimic.
That thing just looks like more nightmare fuel. You love your nightmare fuel. You
I do
keep
love
bringing these
nightmare fuel.
disturbing monstrosities to creation into my life. And I'm like, this is what the exchanges are like for me and Kristen. Like, hey Kristen, look, it's a rabbit folk that has an owl familiar. Isn't it cute?
It's
Kristen,
so
here's an
fluffy.
abomination that's going to give you nightmares for 18 lifetimes.
It's
This
going
is
to
not
qualify.
equal exchange.
Sure, in terms of intensity, it is. Those are very cute things you send me. No, but like I really appreciate second world fantasy that takes kind of what we know culturally and kind of jumps off in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm using Comet Lord as an example. Comet Lord has kind of this Lovecraftian elder space god lens that a lot of other themes get pushed through. And so
Mm-hmm.
like when Comet Lord does like Scott does his mummies, they don't vibe Egyptian really. They vibe kind of Cthulhu space god mummy, right? And so I think kind of seeing that kind of two-pronged fusion to get something a little different would be cool. And I would really like to see a couple more takes on mummies like that, because Egyptians weren't the only people that practiced that, you
Right.
know.
This is true.
And I think Bistarium has done some bog mummy stuff, which is super cool, but like that particular like preservation method, it looks very specific. It's just kind of dark and greasy and weird. And like while that works for Bistarium, I don't necessarily know that it's going to make like a really cool presentation on a miniatures table.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it is.
We have Voxel Forge miniatures in chat. They're saying they're going to try to sculpt Raziel and Kane for October, but as AOS death heroes.
Color me intrigued. Oh, I didn't even see Alex say bog mummies in the chat, but yes, we got there at the same time, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm seeing a lot of people like doing the horror stuff, but cute.
Okay.
It's like Dice Heads has got cool bat people.
Oh, that's adorable.
I have to insert some adorable after all the
I got a
horrific
palette
eye
cleanse.
bleach needing stuff you just submitted me to.
Well, it's funny because Alex just was talking about magnets and talked about the Necromancer, but coming back to that, I think that we could see some scary robots would be kind of fun too. Like you could get Necron proxies that were still kind of horrifying. I think would be kind of neat. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to get my nightmare fuel right back in there.
And we already know that like the vampires are going to be coming too.
Yes, although I am excited that Lord of the Print is doing vampires, because that's going to be a whole different thing.
Arc Villain has previewed their vampire set, and it is horrific. This is like, it's like disgusting to look like. These are mutated mad science vampires, not even because they've already done their takes on the classical vampires and the Russian take on the vampires, and now this is like Frankenstein's vampires, and they are absolutely horrific. And one of them desperately made me want to puke, which is like this big corpulent corpse with like a vampire bat eating part of it while its like jaw was split in half. And oh, come on, like, ooh.
So you of course know I love
the
this
gore. I know you do. I know you do.
I have a complaint about it, and I bet you can guess what it is.
No, I can't. What's the complaint?
I'm sure you can if you really think about it. The bases. Give me playable bases, for God's sake.
Oh yeah, our girl loves having scenic bases. Like, and by scenics we mean it's a playable building. I'm half expecting some of these bases you be able to like remove the top of, and there's like a grid inside.
I was about to say, nothing is more ridiculous than taking an Arc Villain mini and counting out your squares of movement with your tide of blood and skulls and gore coming from like this gargantuan sized creature, but it's a mini that's a miniature, like a medium sized creature.
I love it. Honestly, I do love it. I love their scenic bases, and I would not. I want them to keep doing them. Like they do have like Like their scout assassins are always like gripping the underside of a bridge, and you have to print that whole bridge section, and then you have the.
Right. And now you're in the middle of the dungeon, and that guy's on a freaking bridge,
He's bringing some dungeon with him.
packing it from home like a lunch.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
I don't know, like, but I feel like they could do something with the big, I am mounted on a skull pile to have like, or the version of her that's just balancing on a single skull, like, and it could still be there. But I know that sometimes that would be a lot of resculpting for the artist. So
And you're seeing a lot of those super scenic bases in like stuff that Games Workshop is putting out right now. So I can kind of get why that's a big thing for them, and that there's not too many creators that are going this far with the bases. I can't. I honestly, who else is doing it? It's. I can't think of anybody else going this extra with their bases.
White Wolf, Werewolf sometimes does. Werewolf Tavern. I can say that. Oh, and DM Stash. Love DM Stash stuff, but occasionally we get this big like rotunda base, and it's built in, and I'm like, I will literally just go and like break those things off them.
Yeah. Last Sword has like some fantastic extra bases that are just like 11 out of 10 on base. Like no joke, there's one of their high elf models like comes on a temple. Like the whole temple is there because it's like there's the high elf archmage and their sphinx that there's their mount, but they're off the mount and walking up a set of stairs to pet it on the cheek, and the entire ruined temple is like surrounding this. It's like you're moving a piece of terrain, but the base is optional, and the model and the all the models are designed that they can be printed on more normal bases if you didn't want to go full extra on it. So, which is one of the things I really do like about their minis is like you can go full diorama, or you could just put some sand on a circle and slap this mini on it.
Right. And I think that's great. Also, you look at kind of the flip where there's people like, you know, 3D Hexes does some. There's another one that I really like, blanking, Sync Ratio Studios. They both do really flavorful bases that are standard. So like, if I can get your mini off of your elaborate base, I'll put it on one of those and get my flavor just fine. Like, even if you're not going to sculpt me a new base, just give me one that's not on the giant tide of skulls.
And like I like really cool bases like these undead bases. I put all my undead on with like lanterns,
super
and
cool, but
stuff. Yeah.
There's flavor there without it having to be, the
It's
toppled mausoleum.
Of course, I'm coming from the Kingdom of War fandom where they literally build dioramas on all their pieces, like the stuff that wins the painting awards. There's this one that's wonderful where uh, it's supposed to be a 40-man unit of zombies. There are 12 zombies on the base, but it looks like there's hundreds because what they did is they built a cornfield, and they have a couple of zombies coming out of the cornfield and climbing over the fence, and like, but then they put super glue and they sort of like wished it up to make it look like the cornfield was parting dozens of different times where there weren't actually models in there. So they turned 12 zombies into 100 and made it look convincing and awesome.
That's very cool. I don't know what a Necron flayed one is, but it sounds pretty gross, Alex.
Necron flayed one is about what it sounds like on the cover. They are Necrons that flay people alive and wear their skin for some reason.
Just cuz?
And they are very stupidly expensive to buy, honestly.
But
like
I
it's one of
think
those
you have
situations
your
where GW
alternative
released
horror
the
proxy right there.
yeah. Necrons is great for freaking you out sometimes, and and then there's like the Scorpec Necrons that have like the virus, the Scorpec virus that is you are so ennui that all life must end, and that like you're so depressed that other people getting in contact with you and talking with you can spread the infection of the depression and make you all want to distinguish in life. And so they build gigantic firewalls to keep all thought and communications with these Necrons segmented away from the rest of the population for fear that it will destroy themselves from within. But they're
Yikes.
just really good at killing, so they use them when they need to killing.
That sounds like someone has some serious existential angst that they're processing through.
I've been reading some 40k fiction lately, and it is a lot.
It sounds like a lot.
Ooh. All right. Anything else going on? I am kind of shy on topic this week.
Well, I would like to do a bit of a shout out, and you might be able to pull this up.
What's
Our
up?
friend Adam at Twin Goddess has launched the Battle of the Bards, which we talked about um, a little bit ways back, but it is probably one of the biggest themed bardic minis thing I've ever seen. Especially in 5e, bards are more popular than ever, and this is a huge grouping of bards. Tons of just different instruments. I believe there's stretch goals to add extras, but they're bands. They literally, yeah, bardic beatdown. Sorry, I said it wrong.
So
But
they've got a lot. They've been doing these like banned versions of their minis for a long time, and I've bought several of them and printed them out. So they've got multiple stages. They've got crowd silhouettes and instruments and playmats, and this is cool. This is really cool.
yeah, they have little posters. You can do prop posters where you print it off for the bands that you're going to be facing off against. It would be a really fun, uh, you know, mix up role playing mini campaign, or even if you just got a high bard content. I know a lot of times people will play multiple bards in the same parties these days.
A mosh pit skirmish battle game.
Yeah, it just again a very unique. I didn't see the names. That's funny.
So the band names are Tainted Mithril, the Iron Maidens, Aerosmith, um, Adventures Deeds, and that's it. Those are the four bands.
Yeah, and I think they've got some stretch goals for extra fix for each one and stuff. But it's just a very unique. I mean, we've always liked Adam's stuff, and we've talked to him on here. But this is a very unique frontier campaign thing, and
A 3D printable merch booth.
I should correct myself. It's on Kickstarter, yes,
Yeah.
or is it on
Yes, it is on Kickstarter.
Kickstarter? Okay. And it's very affordable, also. By the way, throwing that out.
Oh, yeah. $15 gets you the minis, and $25 gets you the minis and all the props and stages.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
even
so
if you
this is
just want
stupid
like a
cheap.
big pile of bard minis that are super flavorful,
Hmm.
the dude does really cool tieflings, which I would say if you like tieflings, you should do it on that alone. But see, Alex says 3D printed Voton. That's the
Let's
space
come.
dwarfs.
Yes, Alex says, I've seen some 3D printed Voton minis and weird Vindicare assassin using a Chaldeus assassins, but to steady his massive rifle, he. Oh, yeah, I'm not bringing that up. Demonetized. Um,
Oh,
I've seen that mini too. It's an impressive mini.
righty
Uh-huh.
then.
Yeah, yeah.
I have not seen this mini, but I have a figure I might go Google it later.
Yeah, let's. I'm not. I know we're an audio podcast, but we do have a video component. And I'm not pulling that picture up, but it's good.
Yeah. Enough said. Enough said.
Yeah. There's been some really great stuff out there lately. Also, like, there's been like, this has also been like the month of OPRs kind of exploded, in popularity. So I'm seeing my own stuff, like my own videos that I made for OPR showing up in like random YouTube videos I'm watching, and that's weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a date on something because I don't want to give the wrong information here. There's yeah, I think it is available. I've mentioned Admiral Apocalypse for decorative stuff before,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a modern set of bases and ruins.
Hmm.
And I just like to point those out because we get a lot of sci-fi, we get
Right.
a lot of fantasy, but
Right.
this is like modern, like, you know, contemporary era brick walls, sewer grates, like a lot of brickwork. Uh, Pretty affordable. Again, if you like terrain, there's
Mm-hmm.
some sizable terrain pieces.
And if you hate terrain, not the.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the only two that I had sticking out in my head.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think with that said, we will be calling this one to a close. If you want to support the podcast itself, you can find more of our stuff over at printyourgames.com. If you want to really help us out, you can give us a rating on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast. That helps get the word out. If you're watching us on YouTube, we would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and especially a comment. Like maybe whether or not you want to keep doing FDM printing or if resin's the way of life for you. I'm going to be strongly leaning heavily on resin, at least until I get my grumpies smoothed out. All right, so until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
I'm Kristen Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery, and don't forget to use your screen protector.
And we will see you all next time.
Thank you, and thank you, Square Peg, for subscribing.
Thank you, Square Peg.